Hey, it's Fred Staab and Les Jackson. Welcome to Cruise Control. We are just about ready to get going. We've got a great show this week, Les, and we're going to talk about a little bit of the future of Ford and what their CEO had to say. And you and I have been talking about how self-driving cars, the shine is off them a little bit. So we got some news about that from GM. And then is Nissan ready to pull one of its most popular models from production in the USA? We'll talk about that. It's a
Wow,
model you just drove not that long ago, and we talked about the other week. So,
that's interesting. And we're going to also talk about try before you buy. You can rent a Tesla Cybertruck. I was standing next to a Tesla Cybertruck at the DC Auto Show this past week.
what you
I
think?
have a picture of me. I'll send it to you, Fred.
What did you think of it in real life?
It looks goofier in real life than it does it in the pictures.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that. And then good news, one of Jeep's most popular models is getting a price decrease. You don't hear about Jeeps getting price
Well,
decreases. Do you
that's pretty good.
do you know the 392, the Hemi-powered
Hmm.
Wrangler goes for like 90 some odd thousand. So here we go on our live show. We'll be right back.
This is Cruise Control.
Your on-air automotive magazine with co-hosts Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Everything you need to know about new and used cars. Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air. Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin because you're on
Cruise Control. Cruise Control. Cruise Control.
And welcome to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. It is Fred Staub and Les Jackson. You know us. We're ready to roll on another great hour of Cruise Control that is going to take you on a ride around the automotive industry. And news items, pricing, new cars, new
Yep.
tech, all that and more. Right, Les?
Absolutely. It never ends, as we say all the time, and a bunch of surprises these days. We'll maybe cover a couple of them. And as you mentioned just before we went on, Ford is kind of changing the game.
Yeah, they are, and we'll talk about what it means when Jim Farley says no more boring cars. Does that mean no more
Yeah.
affordable cars? So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of afraid of that. And GM changes the Ultra Cruise plans. That's their autonomous technology.
Yep.
Um, this is happening, I think, a lot.
Yeah. The shine has kind of gone off that, and we'll talk about that.
A little
And
bit,
then
yeah.
is Nissan getting ready to pull the USA production of one of its popular models? Yes, they might start building the Rogue in China, believe it or not. So we will talk about that. Big industry trends going on here, right?
This is quite interesting. And I spent some time at the DC Auto Show this week. I write the program for it. And Tesla has a pretty big display there. And they brought the Cybertruck. I have some photographs of me pointing at it. They wouldn't let anyone touch it for fear that it would, I don't know, disintegrate. In fact, there's a lot of technology in it. I will give them credit. I'll leave it to personal taste whether you think it looks goofy or not.
Yeah. Well, now you can rent it, believe it or not. Try before you buy.
Yeah,
And hey, maybe that's a good idea. Always a good idea, isn't it?
it is. I mean, that shows confidence in the product.
Yeah. And talking about confidence in a product, you don't normally hear this, but one popular Jeep model is getting a price decrease. Yes, it's the Jeep Gladiator. And that's good news if you're on the market for one of those. And we'll tell you about the price decrease.
Yeah.
I just realized, there's a Hemi. I knew there was a Hemi powered Jeep Wrangler, the 392, that thing goes for over $90,000.
I just don't understand where these numbers come from.
Yeah, yeah.
Man,
Yeah, and it's probably going away, and they'll probably have a last call model of that as well.
yeah.
So, wow, a $90,000 Jeep. Who would have ever thought it? But when we come back, we're going to get rolling. We're going to tell you why Ford is not going to build any more boring cars. Stay tuned.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. This is your on-air automotive magazine, and we promise to talk about Ford no longer planning to make boring vehicles. Now, boring, as Fred said, means inexpensive vehicles, non-profitable vehicles. In the words of Jim Farley, commodity vehicles. So, things like the Taurus would have been a commodity vehicle.
The
You know,
Focus. The
all of
Focus.
the Focus, but these are vehicles that don't make a whole lot of profit each. They're just not going to make them.
Wow. Well, they're out of the sedan and car business basically, and they're just going to
Except
sell.
the Mustang.
Yeah, except the Mustang. That's the last car they build. And it's all about trucks. It's all about selling F-150s. It's all about what he calls the icons, the Broncos, the Raptors. But I don't know if this is a great way to go. I really don't.
Well,
you're basically no longer a full-line manufacturer, right?
well, you're not, and you have been for the last 120 years. So there's a lot of institutional memory there, but I guess because, well, we know 78% of the buying public buys SUVs and trucks. So the rest are buying mostly minivans, some sedans. We talk about sedans going away all the time. And the Koreans and the Japanese do a very good job of supplying those.
Well, you see the trend when most even small crossovers from domestic manufacturers are built in Mexico. They're built in
Right.
South Korea and rebadged. They're built even in China in the case of Buick. I mean, most of its lineup is built in Mexico, China, or South Korea.
That's right.
And what's sad is Ford has some pretty good vehicles, like the Ford Escape. It always gets written up as one of the best bangs for the buck. There's a hybrid, there's a plug-in hybrid version, there's the regular gas version. And that's one model that's going to go away, most likely. The Edge.
It's amazing. And they make a profit on that. I mean, they have to.
Yeah. But, I mean, how many people... I mean, I guess they've done the math on this. How many people are going to get a Ranger Raptor or a Bronco Raptor? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, are there that many people that are willing to spend $100,000?
Well, that's the point. They only have to make enough to make to sell to the $100,000 crowd and make a profit of probably a good 40 grand on each one.
Wow. But I just think that's.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a limited group of people, right?
Yes, and I don't think the dealers like this very much because you want to sort of have something for every buyer,
Right.
and this way you won't.
So you walk into a Ford dealer and you say, I really need a minivan. And they're like, we don't sell it, but I'll sell you this giant pickup truck.
Right.
Or, I'm buying one vehicle, but I'd like a smaller vehicle for my son or daughter that is just starting out driving. Well, we don't.
Yeah.
I can sell you an F-150. I can sell you a Ranger for $45,000.
Yeah. I do have an '83 Fairlane. We can
So,
sell you cheap.
I kind of see GM thinking they want to do this too.
Sure. This isn't just Ford. This is everybody.
Yeah. And as I said, in the case of GM and Buick, they are building these things offshore and trying to, make some profit on the smaller vehicles. But I just think, it really limits you if people come in, they want something else and you don't have it. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at some of the smaller manufacturers like Subaru, they wanted a 3-row, that's not really the area they play in, but they realize, hey, someone has a family, they have another kid, they need a 3-row SUV, and you know what?
They make it.
If you don't have it, they'll say thank you very much and go somewhere else. So what does it
about
mean?
The fleet cars.
What about the fleet cars too? Yeah,
What
so
about the fleet? Yeah.
we don't know. But what do you think? Let us know in a comment because I tell you what, is Ford just not going to be the full-line manufacturer that we knew from the past? Well, we'll have to see. Stay tuned to Cruise Control. More coming up.
Oh, excuse me.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson. And, Les, you and I have talked about self-driving cars. And for a while there, it seemed like it was, something people were very excited about. My theory is, it was going to be electric cars, and then they were going to be self-driving. But kind of the shine for the moment has gone off electric cars because they got too expensive. And if the shine's gone off electric cars, there's not even a glint for self-driving cars, at least with the general public. And because they're afraid, like if a electric car is $80,000, what is an electric self-driving car going to be? $160,000, right?
I don't think so. I think it would just be sort of part of the package.
Okay.
But there seems to be a sabbatical going on for electric cars.
So this is confusing because the word cruise, like cruise control, it will be in this story
Like
a lot.
cruise. Yeah.
Remember, GM has the self-driving group called Cruise, right, that they own, that it's kind of shutting down because there were a lot of issues with it. These are self-driving bolts that were used as taxi cabs, and that's one thing. Then they have Super Cruise, which is what would you call it, a level 3 system, I guess. It works on certain roads. It's geo-fenced.
Right.
It will do lane changes. It will hold you in the lane, and it has the LEDs on the rim of the steering wheel that will show you when you have to touch it. Works pretty well. I used it on the New Jersey Turnpike. That's Super Cruise, and it's available on a lot of vehicles. Then they were developing Ultra Cruise that was the same thing as Super Cruise, but it will work on either more
On
roads or any road.
Yeah, 400,000 miles of roads.
So it was announced, GM Authority reported this, that GM indicated to CNBC that GM was preparing to end the Ultra Cruise program and just kind of merge it with Super Cruise and just keep it at that level. And I think what we're seeing is they just can't invest in electric cars and self-driving cars
No,
at
no.
the same time and make money. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is just all about keeping your profits up,
Yeah.
and when the demand just isn't there, don't put money into it until you decide that it's going to be profitable again, which it will be.
Yeah, eventually it will as technology develops. And I mean, so basically, Ultra Cruise was going to offer what Super Cruise offers, but on 95% of driving scenarios on 2 million roads in the U.S., while Super Cruise offers hand free capabilities on 400,000 miles of roads in North America. So basically, it was going to expand Super Cruise. Ultra Cruise was going to expand
Yeah,
Super
right.
Cruise. Um, it's not there yet. I think we might need to see solid state batteries, become commonplace and fast charging
Yeah,
first.
we will.
And
We
then
will.
eventually they'll see this. I think it's a little ahead of itself, the auto industry, right now on these things, and
Hmm.
you and I have said this for a long time. Early adopters of electric vehicles, those vehicles, if you buy them, are not going to be worth much in the future
They're
with a
going to be a
200
little
mile range.
tarnished. Yeah,
Yeah. When a normal range of, let's say, 400 miles and a 10-minute recharge will become the norm. So, I still insist that it's better to buy a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid in the meantime, and then wait it out. But that's just me. But I actually saw a BBC article that said the same thing, and I thought I feel vindicated in some way. You know,
yeah. Well, I mean, the advantage we have is we can see these things happening,
right?
uh, whereas the general public is just kind of. It's not that they're disinterested; they're just uh, not constantly being made aware of what's going on.
So earlier, you and I discussed how Ford was going to get rid of boring cars, and we thought that to mean inexpensive cars, right?
Right.
Because they can't produce small vehicles with limited profit in the U.S. because of labor costs and things like that. Well, but they can produce crossovers. They can produce crossovers. Well, one manufacturer is having a bigger problem. Its most popular model costs too much to make in the U.S., and that is the Nissan Rogue, which it's sad, but this may be the production of this vehicle may be leaving the U.S. And I have a couple of thoughts on this. This is built in Tennessee, and what's happening now in the auto industry after the success of the UAW with getting big increases in pay from Stellantis and GM and Ford, they're looking to organize factories like the Chattanooga plant in Volkswagen's Chattanooga plant in Tennessee,
Right.
and this Nissan plant that is also in Tennessee. And according to Automotive News, Nissan has asked its suppliers to reduce the cost of parts by an average of 20% for the Rogue. And if they can't reduce the prices, they're just going to pull production and send it back to Japan. So
Wow.
it could be that's really what's happening, or it could be were trying to head off organizing by saying, you know what, we're in trouble, and if we can't get the price down here, we're just going to send the production back to Japan and close the plant.
But
so could be a little
if you
of both.
but if you do that, 20%, and yes, it's 20% less to build it in Japan, but then you have to ship it back.
Well, they're trying to get they're trying to get the suppliers to cut the cost of parts by 20%. But
Yeah,
and in Japan it costs 20% less. I guess the shipping doesn't weigh in. I don't know.
I guess not.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to pay to put 3,000 of those things on a boat
And send them. Yeah.
and send them.
And then where do they land? They land on the West Coast. If you need it on the East
Yeah,
Coast, you
they
got
landed
to
wherever that is, Long Beach.
Long Beach, and you got to put it on a train to get it across to the East Coast, right?
Yeah,
That's got to cost something.
that can't be free.
So it could be that this is a ploy to avoid organization. Like if you tell people like, hey, well, we could just close it up. So they actually did give them a 10% pay increase to ward off
Okay,
UAW.
but that doesn't translate to 20% or cuts or 30% cuts.
I always think it's never quite as it seems. I think
No,
there's
I
other things
think
at
you're
play
right.
here. There's other things at play here. And, the fact that it's one of the most popular models and probably the biggest market for it is the U.S. keeps me thinking that it will probably stay here. Some automotive analysts said they've never heard of this. A manufacturer saying, "Well, we're just going to close the plant and send it away." So, who knows? What do you think? Let us know. Hey, I'm Fred Staab. He is Les Jackson. We will be right back on Cruise Control with some good news. One of Jeep's most popular models is getting a price cut, so stay tuned.
Cruise control.
Welcome back to Cruise Control. Hey, guess what, Fred? There's going to be a price decrease.
Wow.
I know you don't believe me.
Les, you got to stop living in that fantasy world.
I know. I had to read it several times before I agreed that it is real, and that's the Jeep Gladiator. They're going to roll back the price a little bit, which is, let's say, refreshing.
Yeah. So their entry level, the price for 2024, the entry level Jeep Gladiator price starts at $39,790, which is $1,725 cheaper than before. The Rubicon and Mojave variants are going to roll out for $54,890, which is $1,750 more expensive.
So if you get the Rubicon and Mojave, you're paying for the discount that
Plus $25, yeah.
that the other guy, yeah.
Yeah. Sitting at the top of the range are the Rubicon X and Mojave X, which are top spec models that retail for $64,890. So
Wow.
they've gotten a lot more equipment in them. Things like cross path detection, blind spot assist, rear parking assist. And Mojave X also gets Fox 2.5-inch bypass shocks and front hydraulic jounce bumpers. Jounce is a word that describes what it actually is. You know that?
Yeah, that's one of those terrific words, you know exactly. Yeah, jounce
Yeah.
or
Uh,
pierce.
Advanced cruise control and forward collision warning have been made standard across the range except for the Sport. And you can also get an Upcountry Plus kit from American Expedition Vehicles. That's a company that GM works with and others where they upfit vehicles and they're sold at dealers. So there is a little bit of a decrease in that. I wonder how many people, though, when they buy this, actually buy the base model.
I, I don't know. The ones I've seen seem to be tricked out pretty far.
That's what I think. I think people buy the super tricked out versions, and so decreasing the price on the base model is nice and gets people into the tent. But maybe it brings people in and they say, well, if you can afford 39, can you afford 54? Brings them into the dealer and they're like, hey,
Right.
we don't have any of those base ones, but, you know, it you for a couple of 10,000 more, you can get this
Yeah.
fancier model.
Prepare to be upsold.
Upsell, yeah. But it's still good news that that you can get into it a little bit cheaper.
That's right.
Try before you buy. Tell me, by the way, tell me about the Tesla Cybertruck. You've had a close encounter of this
I've
cyber
had a
kind.
close encounter. The stainless steel exterior is very much like the DeLoreans used to be,
Brushed,
which is kind of
brushed.
blotchy.
Oh, blotchy. Okay, is it a brushed
Yeah,
look? Sort of like a stainless steel?
it's well, it's a soft look. It's not polished,
Okay.
but panel to panel, you know, they're not exactly the same sheen or the it just doesn't work that way. But the truck itself is you definitely notice it, and it's I personally don't like the looks of it at all. Now it's interesting because we had all of us press people there, and I actually asked everybody, well, look, raise your hands if you like the looks, raise your hand. If you don't like the looks, don't raise your hand. And it was about half and half. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little too out there for me. Um, I don't know. It's just a little too out there for me. It
It
seems like it's
looks
trying
impractical,
too
but
hard.
I will, yeah, I will mention that if you go on YouTube to Jay Leno's Garage, there's an hour-long discussion with Franz
Hausen.
Holzhausen, whom we know,
All right.
the designer, but he also has done a lot of the engineering, and he goes through all of the various features in engineering, and it is well thought out
Yeah.
uh, for what it does. So I have to admit that if everything works like he showed, then it's quite versatile. But uh, I, speaking for those of us that don't like the looks of it, I just say, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's interesting. You familiar with the service called Turo, where people rent their own vehicles out?
right.
Which
Yeah.
always, when someone told me about this, I thought, well, there's a recipe for disaster. Hey, I don't know you, but I'll let you use
Yeah.
my car. What could go wrong? A lot. Or my favorite story on
Great
Turo
vehicle.
was somebody rented a Tesla Model S or something. And for some reason, the guy got a weird feeling. He followed it where it went to. The guy had taken it apart and was using it to prototype pieces. They took the
Wow.
front end off of it, bumper
Wow.
covers and that, and were putting new parts on it. The guy called the police because that's a little bit. I
Wow.
guess you would have to write that into the rental deal. No disassembly,
Yeah.
no modifications. You know.
No. Yeah.
Well, you can rent one of these Cybertrucks for $1,000 a day on Turo. There's a couple of them. One is a Tesla employee. It's pretty interesting. A Tesla employee is renting a Foundation Series Tesla for $1,069, and that the feedback after your rental will be shared directly with the Tesla employees working on the Cybertruck. It's very much like what a lot of people feel Tesla does. They use you as the test engineer. That's what a lot of people have said with the Tesla products, that they use the buyers, in this case the renters, as test engineers. But, somebody might do that. And then there's another one, a Cyber Beast model that is only $950 a day, and you can try it out. Probably not a bad idea for someone thinking about buying this. Apparently, a lot of people that are on the waiting list have done this to see if it's worth waiting for.
Yeah. Well, I think the interesting thing is if you put down an order for one and you get to rent it and drive it, and you don't like it, then you don't have to wait any longer to make the decision to forget about it.
No, you
So
can easily just say, not for me. So I don't know. I think it's a good idea. Turo, it might be worth it if you're on the fence about owning a vehicle to rent the model you want to drive.
Sure.
And just check it out. I think it might be worthwhile to do that. Because the test drive is never really that helpful, is it? At a dealer.
No, very little.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about something new from the folks at Ford. They have a new model, a new trim level of the GT, Ford Mach-E GT. It's the bronze edition. Pretty good looking vehicle, isn't it?
It is good looking. It's different. It looks smaller.
Right. Well, it's not smaller, but it's bronzier.
It's not. It looks sleeker.
Yeah. Bold bronze mesh front grille adds dynamic coloring and aggressive style. All right.
That's what I was going to say.
That's what you were going to say. I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always kind of liked bronze with it. I remember there were magnesium-colored wheels that were similar to this that were on the Corvette. I always thought they looked kind of nice. This is one of those things where you have to keep interest in the model when there's not a lot of new news to report. Once again, on this vehicle, it seems like people that bought them, and I don't see a lot of new ones out there now. How about you?
I don't see many out there. I kind of thought I would.
Yeah.
But no, I rarely ever see one.
Well, when we come back, more Cruise Control, plenty more coming up. So stay tuned to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson. I've never understood this, Les. Maybe you can explain, but it's happened to all forms of racing. A track is there for many, many years.
Right.
It's out in the middle of nowhere. People or builders decide to build houses by the track. People move in knowing that there's a track there, and then they complain about noise.
Yeah.
And this is happening in Laguna Seca, which was opened in 1957. So if you move there, there's a good chance if you live there now, you knew there was a track there.
That's right. And you decided it would not be a problem for you.
Or maybe you like it. Maybe you like going to the maybe you actually race there. Or maybe you don't care, you know. But a handful of residents along Highway 68 are suing Monterey County for excessive noise and traffic at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Same thing happened at Englishtown, New Jersey. And, you know, what they tried to do is very similar to what they're trying to do here. I'm sure there are lawyers that specialize in this. You know, Laguna Seca makes its money not from a few races, but it makes its money when it does track day events and other events. You know, you and I have gone to reveals of vehicles, and they make their money this way. Well, they want to cut that out. They want to limit the amount of days that they can do that type of thing. And so, you know, they're really trying to put them out of business, basically, aren't they?
Well, and this kind of thing happened at Lime Rock in Connecticut too. I think they only race on weekends.
Wow.
And it's exactly the same thing happened here in D.C. when Dulles Airport was built. When it was built, there was nothing out there except empty farm fields.
Right.
For 10 miles in any direction. And then over the years, if you drive out there now, it's unlimited housing.
Right.
And you know, back 20 years or so, some of these housing developments, you went in, you bought the house, you know it's at the end of a runway.
You're going to hear planes. I can guarantee it.
And you're going to hear planes, and then you decide you want to file a lawsuit. Well, I can understand if the houses that have been there, which shouldn't have been built close to the approaches, if they're not as valuable and if they sell much, much less money because they're less desirable. But my gosh, if you deliberately buy something there knowing what it's near, I don't think you have much of an argument to want the airport or the racetrack to go away. And I am a big, as you know, Fred, big supporter of noise ordinances.
Right.
But
you wouldn't live at a house on the end of a runway.
No.
And say, why is there jet noise?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, and I just think there are limits to these things. I think maybe a better thing for Laguna Seca would be to, you know, limit how many days a week. Instead of 7 days a week, maybe they can only have events 3 or 4.
Compromise.
Still make money.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's what I do. If I'm looking for a house or something, I use Google Earth and look at what's around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that? What's that big open field, or what's that factory?
And what's it going to be?
Right. Oh, it's empty. It
go
could
to the
be
city
something.
or the county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to do your research. But, you know, we'll see how this comes out. It seems like they have Friends of nonprofit organization, Friends of Laguna Seca. And it seems like they might be able to come up with something for this that won't be, you know, closing the track. So, because remember, it's better to race on the track than race on the
I
street.
mean, certainly racetracks have a finite life anyway.
Yeah.
Like Bridgehampton, Long Island.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Marlboro, Maryland, over here.
Yeah. Well, the property becomes, you know, too valuable.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody, maybe passes away, and they decide, well, the family's not interested in running a racetrack, and here's a guy saying, well, I'll give you $50 million for the property. So that's
And
pretty
that's it.
enticing. It's pretty enticing. It's certainly enticing, So I understand that too. Now, Les, you're probably going to be excited about this next story,
Uh-oh.
knowing that you are a big fan of sports. But there is now,
I live for it.
you live for sports. I know this. Try not to get too excited, but there is going to be an NHL version of the new Hyundai Santa Fe. National
Okay.
Hockey League. It's only going to be sold in Canada.
You thought I didn't know that was the hockey league.
Well, I know you're just a big sports fan. I thought maybe,
That's right.
yeah, for our audience, maybe they didn't know that, but customers will be able to customize the 2024 Santa Fe to represent their favorite team with accessories available for all 32 NHL teams.
Okay.
Only available in Canada, by the way.
Actually, I mean, I have no interest in most of these sports leagues, but that's fine. I think
They wear the jerseys. Now you can make your whole
that's
truck
right.
look like
And
a jersey.
if you and it's not just sports; it's pop culture. The most popular object at the Air and Space Museum actually the large one. There are two.
Right.
One outside of DC, the largest, the most where the space shuttle is, and the Blackbird, and incredible airplanes. The most popular object is the Barbie doll that went into space. They line up to see it.
That's funny.
So, I can't
When
laugh
there's
at
so
this.
much cool aircraft.
Oh, unbelievably cool stuff.
Right. Which would you rather see, the Wright Flyer or the Barbie doll?
Or the Barbie doll. Yeah.
SR-71 Blackbird or Barbie doll?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
The Enola Gay.
Right.
I mean, there are hundreds of just awe-inspiring airplanes and gadgets. And there's Barbie in a case.
And there's
Went up
Barbie
there
in a case.
and by the way, it went up in that shuttle right behind you.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh,
No.
really? Oh, that. Oh, yeah. Look
Oh,
at
that one. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
just great.
it's, I guess whatever you're interested in. But if you do live in Canada, that will be something you can purchase. There's only going to be 500 of them. So hockey's rather big in Canada.
Oh, yes, that I know.
So
Gordie Hull.
I don't. We best not start mentioning.
I think that was the name of a famous Canadian hockey player. I'm not.
Could be. I don't know. But with that in mind, I'll say I'm Fred Staab.
I am Les Jackson.
We're going to see you down the road.
I. I have to look that up, Fred. I hope I'm right.
I think it's Bobby Hall.